Hi, my name is Olivia Day, and I did my final presentation on A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. I chose this because the ending really stood out to me, and that it really made me remember the story. And I think if something can make you remember a story that you read in English class, because, I mean, you read thousands of stories in English class over your life, so this one stood out to me for the ending. There's so much tragedy in Miss Emily, the main character, in her life, and this presentation is going to go over how the events and the tragedies in her life kind of led to her death. So pretty much the hypothetical and legitimate death of Emily, because as you go through the story, you kind of see her happiness and her life kind of deteriorating anyway. So okay, so let's go through the characters. First is Old Lady Wyatt, and that is Emily's great aunt, and she's kind of crazy, and it kind of explains where Emily gets her craziness, so it runs in the family. The next one is Colonel Sartoris. He's the mayor, and so once you see Emily kind of going through this depression, and she's letting her house go, she's not coming out of it, and the neighbors are getting concerned, he helps her out when her father dies, and he kind of relieves her of paying her taxes. Miss Emily's father is the next one, and he is a very selfish man that would have rather kept Emily away from the world and kind of had her to himself. Homer Barron is the man that Emily was in love with, and his remains were actually found in her bed when she died, and everyone thought that she'd killed him, and you won't really ever find out what happens to him, but it's very sad because she was laying next to his remains because she was in love with him. Alright, and so the summary. It kind of starts off with Miss Emily, and she's rich, happy, she's got a crazy personality that a bunch of people are in love with. And then it all starts, her first tragedy is when her father passes away. And once her father passes away, she kind of goes into this depression, which is where she starts to disappear. And by disappear, I don't mean nobody sees her, but she kind of locks herself in her house, and she just doesn't come out. She doesn't really speak to anyone. And then her house starts looking terrible. So everyone's wondering why her house is looking like this. They're wondering why she's not coming out. They figured she's just really upset about her father. And then the mayor tries to help her out, and he remits all her taxes and everything. Well, then everything kind of turns around when she meets Homer, and they fall in love. And then Homer disappears. So they last see him walk into her house. So they're not sure what's going on, because nobody's seen Homer in a couple days, and then a couple weeks, and then months. Well, then people start to smell something coming from Emily's house. So they complain about the smell, and they try asking her about it, and they're concerned. Well, then Emily just stops talking to people in general, and she just doesn't leave her home. Then eventually, at the very end, Emily dies, and people are really they're not excited that she's dead, but they're excited that they get to go in her house, because nobody's seen the inside of her house in like years. So when they go in the house, it's very sad. They find the body of Homer in her bed and his remains, and they realize that she's been sleeping next to it for a long time. So yeah, and that's kind of where Emily dies officially. So my opinion, to me, this story stood out to me because of the ending. That's kind of where I feel like really all the power of the story came from. So like the life of Miss Emily, and it was really tragic, and you really feel for her. And then at the end, you start to see how she's almost more at peace when she's dead. And at the end, like I said, when they find the dead body of the man that she was in love with, that's where it absolutely broke my heart, and that's where I feel all the compassion for her that's built up over the years of her life. Okay, so her death. Miss Emily's death was almost like a relief to me, and probably to her too. She had a long, really hard life full of deaths that were close to her, Homer and her father and everything, and she kind of slowly drove herself crazy. So, like I said, she started off this really great girl, and she slowly just kind of deteriorated. And I feel like all the events in her life kind of contributed to her death. They killed her slowly, and then when she actually died, she was almost at peace. So I feel like she was more dead when she was alive. And then why is it called A Rose for Emily? So I found a quote from William Faulkner, and he said the title was an allegorical title. The meaning was, here was a woman who had a tragedy, an irrevocable tragedy, and nothing could be done about it, and I pitied her, and this was a salute to a woman who would hand a rose. So he was pretty much saying he pitied Emily because her whole life was one giant tragedy, and the story would fall under the genre of gothic fiction because it was kind of dark, the whole story. It was just depressing, but at the same time, at the end, I feel like it would kind of be a love story too, but tragic one. So kind of like Romeo and Juliet. And then I have my sources. So that's really it. All right.